I am not a mess.
I went back and listened, Rick, and that was pretty bad.
Thank you.
It really was. It was so out of tune and so off. Everybody was singing off key and behind each other. It was horrible.
It's the thought that counts, Jake.
That's right.
That's right. Isn't that what your mother always told you? It's the thought that
Yep.
counts, right?
Yep. That's exactly what she said.
I know. All right. So let's see.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, Bill Franklin just lost video and audio. I'm sorry to hear that. I wonder why, because we do have video and audio. I don't think it's at our end.
Yeah, just came back. I don't know what happened. Can you hear me?
We can hear you great.
All right.
Hi. Hello.
I can see you too.
Good. We can see you too.
Since it's early, I just wanted to say, if we got time, I wanted to ask a question or two. I didn't send anything on the email earlier.
Okay. You're in. We'll,
right.
we've got you down. So let me tell you who I can see on the call, and then you can tell me who else is here. So I know that Jake, Peter Kafka, Bill Franklin, Jerry Grimes, and Len Sierra are on the call. Who else is on?
Dennis Correa.
Hello, Dennis Correa.
Hey.
Dennis, you may be seeing me sooner than you think, or sooner than I want to think. Two-back is looking pretty good right now.
Good.
And it's halfway to Lake Patagonia, and I know I can row on Lake Patagonia, so I'm kind of excited about that.
Right, that's a neat lake down there.
Yeah. All I've got to do now is buy a boat. So
I'll say a kayak.
I need something a little longer. I need something that's probably about 28, 29 feet long. I need a scull. So it's going to take me a while to find one. I don't think there are too many skulls around Tucson.
Probably not.
I know. So Dennis Correa, and who else is on? Anyone else on the telephone that hasn't identified yet?
Jim Harrington, Rick.
Hello, Jim Harrington.
Hi, Rick.
Great. So Jim, we're going to do your Listeria thing next Monday, correct?
Yes, that's fine, Rick. I'll have more information then and
Perfect.
more personal experience. Sure, that sounds fine.
Perfect. And I'll put it in the next letter that's what we're planning on doing.
Sure, happy to talk about that for a little while.
Great. Excellent. So I think that we see everybody. So we'll get cracking. I know Jerry Grimes and I have talked before, but I can't remember. Were you on the call last Monday or not, Jerry?
Yes, I was. That was my first time.
That was your first time. Okay, so we went through your issues last Monday. Okay, so that means we don't have anybody who's here for the first time. And right now we have a small group, which is dynamite, especially after having 25 last week, last Monday. So let me run down and see who's got things they want to talk about, and we can move right into that and see where that takes us, and we'll see who else joins us over the next 10 or 15 minutes. And nobody should hold back, because we've got a small group. So if there's anything you want to talk to, today's the day. Okay? Agreed?
Okay.
Hey, agreed.
Agreed. Jake, what about you?
Maybe just an update on my extendee and my PSA.
Very good. Peter, anything for you?
Post-op urinary retention, POUR.
Okay, let's talk about post-op urinary retention. It's a good one, and we don't often talk about it. And
I sometimes wish I had urinal retention.
Bill, you had some stuff, so we'll put you up. We'll put you up third. Len, we know you've got something to talk about. I know you've got something to talk about. So there's a yes for you. Jerry Grimes,
Yep.
Anything you'd like to talk about today or update us on?
Just a little bit more on my researching on PSA recurrence.
Okay, absolutely. Dennis, how about you? Anything for you today?
Just listening in today.
Okay. And Jim, how about yourself?
Rick, no, I'll just listen tonight.
Okay. Well, all right. So let's, and no one else has come in. Has anyone else come in? Did I catch everybody? There's no one I haven't identified, I don't think.
This is Peter. I have a question for Jim Harrington later on if there's time.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then we can cover that with your post.
Yeah, I'll be here. I'm always happy to try to help.
Thank you.
Did you get Bill Franklin, Rick? Yes,
I did.
Okay.
All right, Jake. So talk to us a little bit about Xtandi and enzalutamide.
Well, it's not really much news. It's just I've been on it now for about two months, a little bit over 2 months, and it had gone up. My PSA had been up as high as 15.5, went down after 1 month to 3.3, and then this last time, about a week ago, it was down to 1.0.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I was very happy. Remain very happy. Hope it lasts for a long time. That's all I can say.
Right.
I think I've been good.
How are you doing with that rash?
You know what? It's still there, Rick. My doctor gave me a steroid, and it helped a little bit. And I've been taking Benadryl, and it helps. But I don't think it's the enzalutamide. I think it's something I've been eating. You know, but I can't figure it out. It hasn't gone beyond a rash, so I'm not too worried about it.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Well, I mean that's really good news. How are you feeling?
Jacob?
How are you feeling on the Xtandi? How are you managing? You notice a difference since you started taking it? What's your input on that? Because that's often an issue that a lot of men starting Xtandi want to know.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I think it's helped. I've had back pain, lower back pain. You know, not serious, but you know, they always there for 2 or 3 years, and I believe that the Xtandi has helped with that somewhat. Hasn't gone away completely, but I think it's helped a little bit. But I do feel a lot more tired. I just don't have energy. So, and that seems. I mean, I've never had a whole lot of energy, but it's gotten worse, I think, since I took the Xtandi or started taking the Xtandi.
This is Jim, Rick. When do you take the Xtandi?
Jake,
I take it about 10 o'clock each night.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to suggest the obvious. Take it before you go to bed.
Yeah.
I know he's doing. I know he's doing that already, Jim. I remember that from before. Peter, you had a question?
Yeah, Jake, my buddy Mike Tamales here. He's about a month behind you. He started earlier this month on Xtandi, and he noticed right away problems with neuropathy in his legs. Do you have anything like that going on?
Well, yeah. Now that you mention it, I've had some kind of like numbness in my toe and my sole of my foot. That kind of.
About.
Huh? Say again, please.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Numbness and pins and needles type of thing in the feet and legs.
Yeah, not so much in my legs, but in my feet. So, and it comes and goes. It's not constant. And I had numbness in my toe for quite a while, but the sole of my foot seems to have gotten worse since I started taking the Xtandi.
And is the pain in the sole of your foot, is it just numbness or is it painful?
Just numbness.
You know, I discovered probably about a year or two ago that neuropathy, this type of neuropathy, is a noted side effect of long-term use on hormone therapy.
Right.
Which I didn't know, on androgen deprivation therapy. And I'm just wondering, I mean, obviously, enzalutamide is not androgen deprivation therapy, but most of you have been on androgen deprivation therapy for a good period of time.
Right.
I have, I don't want to say significant compared to a lot of people, but I definitely have neuropathic problems in both my feet, my soles, my heels, my toes.
And actually, Rick, that was what I was going to bring up tonight. The fact that I'm having a lot of heel pain in my arch and on the sole. Originally, I thought it was plantar fasciitis, and I got cortisone shots in one foot, which seemed to help, but the other foot, absolutely nothing helped. And
that's the way it is with me, Bill. Is one foot. It's not both feet. It's only my left foot.
Well, mine's painful. You said yours is just numb, right?
Right, pretty much.
I do. I've got numbness and tingling in my left hand, which started about 3 weeks ago, about a month ago, actually. Which I have a doctor's appointment next week, which I'm going to bring this up with them. But you know, this all started new. The feet just started hurting. It got worse and worse. Then the hand started, and I'm just on ADT. You know, I'm not on anything else. But Rick just said long-term ADT might cause some sort of symptoms like these.
Now,
there was a thread on Inspire about this exact same thing, and a lot of guys said the foot pain, ankle pain.
Well, there's different types of pain. I mean, there's joint pain, which is what a lot of people complain about. I didn't see is the Inspire thread a recent one? I've been very tough.
Well, there were recent comments on it. I don't know when it was actually beginning.
I'll look and see if I can find. I've been so tardy on getting on to Inspire because I've been so slammed. But what I was going to say was going to ask you is the pain like burning at times, and other times it feels like people are sticking needles or points into your feet? Is it that type of pain?
My foot pain is the sharp pain, not right. Burning, but like a sharp stabbing pain. Stabbing pain, right. Arch of the foot and in the heel of the foot mostly.
Right.
My hand is the tingling, like a numbness and pins and needles. Almost. Right. It goes back and forth, numbness and pins. But my arm's not asleep. I mean, I know when my arm falls asleep. But
right. I suspect that, I mean, again, I'm not a doc, but I think that when you go to see the doc, is this your medical oncologist you're going to see or your GP?
It'll be my oncologist.
Yeah, I think you really need to talk to him about the possibility of neuropathy, and they may be surprised. Is he a GU med-onc or is he a regular med-onc? I can't remember, Bill.
Yeah, he's a GU.
Okay, so he should be familiar with it, and it is known. There are drugs, Neurontin, gabapentin is one.
Yeah, those were mentioned in the thread.
Yeah, and there are some antidepressants which may help. I can't remember them off the top of my head.
I read about those actually being prescribed for hot flashes.
They are, but they can also be prescribed for neuropathic pain. I've got a bunch of notes. I can't really I can't look right now, but I'll try and get back to you. Anybody else got any thoughts on from a medical standpoint, because there are some other things we'll talk about in a minute, but from a medical standpoint, any other drugs that you want to raise for neuropathy?
Well, the only other drug that I'm taking, of course, I am taking Lupron and I am taking Zometa, as you know, and then the enzalutamide. Other than my regular medicines for high blood pressure and cholesterol. Oh, that's another thing, Rick. My cholesterol and triglycerides like almost doubled.
Okay, let's just hang for a second and come back to that, Jake. Let's stick on neurontin. Let's stick on neuropathy.
Oh, okay.
Rick, I think maybe the drug you were thinking of is Cymbalta.
Cymbalta, right. Thank you, Len.
Sure.
That with a C, or that's with a C, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, C1.
I've seen that one mentioned also.
And that's that's an antidepressant. What type of antidepressant is it, Len?
I believe it's one of the, it's called SSNRI, selective serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. It's a mouthful.
Right.
But you can't say that 3 times.
Say it once.
SNRI, yeah. I mean, I take an SNRI all the time and have done for 17 years now, so I don't think it's helped me much. At the same time, it might be effective, but I know how painful it is. I really do. And for me, the interesting thing is it's worse in when the weather's cold outside than when it's warm. So it's much more prevalent in the winter for me than it is in the summer. But it's really painful. I mean, you know, I hobble around all the time. There's just not much you can do about it. It is what it is.
But I thought peripheral neuropathy would get better once you stop taking the drugs. And you're not on any kind of Lupron or anything, are you, Rick?
No, but it's left over from the Lupron. It obviously caused some nerve damage. And
that's permanent.
It started probably soon after. Maybe the first time I ever experienced it was a year or 2 afterwards.
After you continued, or after you were on it for a year?
After I'd been on it. So I didn't bother me during the period, but within a year or 2 of it coming off is when it first started, and I never thought that it was associated with it, and it still may not be. I mean, my mother, God rest her soul, used to complain about something similar, but she was a lot older than me, and so it might be something that's genetic and inherited, but it's definitely what I have, and I doubt that the hormone therapy helped much. I mean, I was on it for 28 months, so it's not like some of you guys here, but I really empathize, Bill. It's just unpleasant.
So I'm coming off of the ADT after 18 months, which I'm on, just finishing up 14 months now, so 15 months almost, yeah.
Right.
So maybe it'll get better. I don't know. But it is, like you said, I hobble around too. When I first get up from a seated position or from sleeping, and if I don't put on shoes with inserts or my tennis, my running shoes,
I
can't walk barefoot around the house. It's killing me.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's definitely hard. It's harder walking barefoot for sure. It's more painful. Now, I haven't tried it, but but acupuncture may be a possibility. And also the electroacupuncture. The what do they call that? The there's a
I've had neurostim, I believe what it was called, a neurostim, a couple of those treatments, which seemed to help for a little while, but then it came back.
Now, what is that? Is that where they put the needles in and they run the current between the needles?
It's not currents. It's like little electrodes, pads. It's not actual.
Oh, right. I know. Right. That's what I
called it. My wife's friend, she does this as part of physical therapy for some other people.
Right.
I let her try it on me.
Right. And you got some temporary relief from it?
Yeah, I mean, whether it was the placebo effect or whatever, I mean, I felt better. The heel pain went away in the for a little while in the right foot. Or receded. It got less. It didn't go away completely. It's never gone away completely in the right foot.
Anybody else on the call wrestling with this neuropathy issue, similar to what we're talking about, that hasn't spoken up yet? Yeah.
Rick, I don't have it, but I have a low-tech idea here I want to throw in.
Please.
You guys. You know, I live in Hawaii, and we wear rubber slippers all the time. You know, we wear them to the bank, we wear them out to dinner, we wear rubber slippers all over. And one of the options you have is these massage slippers with the little bumps in them. Mm-hmm. I've been wearing those for about 10 years. I like it. It stimulates the bottom of your foot. I mean, it costs about $4 a year, but it might be worth a try if you can find some kind of massage sandal or something that has those little rubber bumps in it, and see if it makes a difference in walking around. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a store called Feet First. I don't know if they're a franchise or not, but they have one here, not far from where I live. But you know, flip flops and those kind of sandals like you're talking about, those are very popular here in Florida too. I mean, I don't think I wear anything but flip flops when I'm not working or running, or I can't run anymore. But
do they help, Bill?
Well, I haven't got the massage that Peter's talking about, but
I'm sorry.
I did get some inserts for my my dress shoes for work that the foot doctor prescribed, and those seem to help. Not immensely, but they help a little bit.
Are you going to show us?
How much did you say they cost? How much did you say they cost you a year, Peter? Did you say
it cost about
$5?
$5? It costs about $5 a pair. That's a close-up of it on the screen there.
Yeah, there's not enough light.
Little waffle bumps on.
We don't have enough light. We need a little more light on it.
Yeah. At the tourist shops, you can buy the ones, they say they're massage ones. They're like $5 a pair. This Feet Plus store, they're selling them for like 20. So
right.
Credibility versus a souvenir shop.
Hey, Bill, I missed a little bit of it, but did you definitely rule out any kind of tendonitis?
I've been at the foot doctor. I had X-rays. I actually got cortisone shots. I mentioned that. I don't know if you were on yet. And the pain in the left foot went away with the cortisone shot. Never came back. But the right one, cortisone shot didn't work. Exercise, massage. It could. She said that the tendonitis part, she was pressing all over the heel and around the pad and the back part. And she said it should hurt if it was tendonitis, and there was no pain anyplace else except for the heel.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the problems I have, that, when you press on it, there isn't really a lot of pain. You can't identify the pain, but it's like searing and burning and sensitive and very, very sensitive.
Did you have that experience?
I've had lots of Achilles tendonitis and just various things in the foot from running, but never had it from I was on 18 months of Lupron or Firmagon, but it was separate from that, and I finally got the prescription inserts and really padded running shoes, the Hokas, and that seemed to help a lot.
Well, I stopped running altogether. I have a stationary bike, and I ride that, and I swim, but I stopped running completely.
When was that? When did you stop? How long ago?
It's been about a month.
Okay. So when you get the stuff, though, I mean, you probably know all this, but I mean, it can easily take 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I wear, these inserts that I got from the podiatrist, I wear all the time. So I'm never without those things. You know, any shoe that I wear, I have to wear those things. And I think that really helped, if that's what it is. If it's not, the neuropathy.
Yeah,
Yeah, you guys are talking about pain. Mine is just a loss of sensation.
right.
It's not total numbness, but it's just, I can tell there's a little bit of loss of sensation. It just feels weird to walk on, but no pain. So it may be two different things.
Jake, did you ever go to a neurologist?
No, I've been to one many years ago, but not for this.
Might be worth having them do a workup. Maybe it's something completely unrelated to the ADT.
Could be. My oncologist, she wanted me to have an MRI. That's her answer to everything, and I just.
Yeah.
Well, hi, it's Larry Fish. You know, I get intermittent at burning. I found that I can switch socks sometimes for like a diabetic, all cotton, thin diabetic socks
Mhm.
to help with the burning. And then when I get numbness, sometimes I have to switch to heavier socks. So it's like I carry extra socks.
Yeah, you know, Larry, I've also found that sometimes the thickness of the socks does make a difference. A lot of it is just finding what works for you, but I do think that there are medications and there are some complementary treatments, and it's not a bad idea to try them out. I mean, you know, I say that I haven't done it, and I suffer from it, but at the same time, I'm lazy, and you know, sometimes the shoemaker has holes in their shoes, and I just haven't bothered to. I just haven't done a whole lot of treatment for myself. But there are other people who do it. So let's keep moving along. Bill, I hope we've given you a few ideas here, and the most important is to specifically ask your medical oncologist to address the neuropathy.
Right.
You say that you think it is neuropathy possibly associated with long-term use of hormone therapy, which you know is a symptom, is a comorbidity, and so I would point them. We'll come back to you in a second in case you had anything else, but Jake, let's come back to you. And you mentioned that your triglycerides and your cholesterol levels have also gone out of whack.
Right. Yeah, I mean, mine have been high for years, so I've been on medication for years. But my last blood test, I got a lipid test from my regular, physician, and everything, the triglycerides doubled to out of normal, and cholesterol doubled to out of normal.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the only thing, I don't watch my diet the way I should, but I don't think I ate that much crazy stuff to make it go that much out of whack. Only thing I can think of is that it's a side effect of the Xtandi. But looking at the literature, I did not see that as one of the side effects.
You know, one of the reports that Rick had mentioned about metformin also said that there seemed to be some effect on triglycerides, but it was inconclusive on that one. But my triglycerides are also very high. They're like over 400. But my cholesterol, everything else is fine. Everything else is within the normal numbers. It's just my triglycerides. They're over 400. They've been climbing over like the last year and a half. So they were climbing before I was on ADT, though.
Right. Well, me too.
So,
But just
Hey, Jake, it just occurred to me, pretty sure I remember seeing one of those anti-smoking commercials on TV where the people who are smokers talk about their symptoms, and I believe numbness in extremities was one of the complaints they had. So you got to stop, brother.
I hear you. Yeah, you're talking about peripheral artery disease.
Yeah.
I've actually cut back. You know, I've been smoking for 50 years. It's really, really hard, but I have actually tried to cut back. I don't know if I'll ever be able to quit completely. Thank you for that one.
Let me just come back to a couple of things here. the triglycerides association with metformin, wasn't it, was it that the metformin reduced the triglycerides or increased the triglycerides? I'm trying to remember.
In one study, there was a reduction, but they never. It was just like kind of an aside. It wasn't a follow up on it. It was just something that one of the researchers noticed.
So,
and I never saw another study that was specifically geared toward looking at what metformin did to the triglycerides.
So what I do want to say is that there is absolutely no doubt that the long-term use of androgen deprivation therapy has a metabolic effect. And,
oh, yeah, totally.
and one of the metabolic comorbidities is that that your cholesterol increases. So it's not surprising that for your LDL, for your triglycerides and your cholesterol to double. Jake, I just have a question. I'm not dumb, but did your HDL and your LDL double, or was it just your LDL?
The LDL. The HDL actually went down a slight bit. The HDL is a good cholesterol.
That's right.
And that went down a couple of points, but the LDL went up and my total cholesterol went up.
Okay. So to what level? What sort of level are you at?
The cholesterol's still within a normal range. I don't have it right in front of me, Rick. The triglycerides are up to like 270, where they had been down with medication,
and
to much lower.
And what drug are you using?
I take it used to be Leveza,
Yeah.
which is like a fish roll tablet. Now I take the generic, which is omega C esters. I take them for the triglycerides, and I take Lipitor for the cholesterol.
See if you can switch to Crestor. It's generic now.
Okay, yeah, you told me that last time. I have an appointment with my PCP early in the month, and I'll ask her about that.
Well, ask your med-onc. She can do it. Ask your med-onc and tell her you want it for two reasons. A, because this is going up. That's why you got a med-onc. And B, because you believe that it's a better drug for prostate cancer as well.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I have a strange relationship with my two doctors. They kind of have like their predefined areas of responsibility. If it's cholesterol or whatever, it's my regular doctor. If it's anything having to do with cancer or side effects, it's my med-onc. And they don't communicate. We're always talking about a team. Well, I don't have a team, that's for sure.
Well, but then you've got to insist, because the fact is that the cholesterol is about your cancer. It's because you're on ADT. And if your med-onc doesn't think that she has a responsibility for working with you on your metabolic side comorbidities, there's something wrong. And you have to say that to her. Okay. You have to say, Doc, metabolic effect, we know that that's from my ADT. I'm not happy that you're passing this responsibility off to my PCP. And they have to hear it from you, because when they hear it from you, they will do something about it. If they don't hear it from you, they're not going to address it. She should be working with you to get that down.
Okay.
And Crest.
Well, I see my PCP first, and she's the one she's going to see the blood tests, and then if she doesn't, I'll talk to her about changing over to Crestor. And if she doesn't do it, then when I see my med-onc, I'll talk to her about it.
Now, what I'm not sure.
I'll get it.
What I'm really not sure about is why this should suddenly happen when you start enzalutamide. Has anyone else, Jim Harrington, did your cholesterol numbers change, your cholesterol panel change at all when you started enzalutamide?
No, not that I'm aware of. I've never suffered though from Rick, from high cholesterol. That's one of the good things. I can eat all the eggs and everything I want, and so no. The only thing that I suffer from is the alkaline phosphatase, but I do not connect it up with Xtandi. So no, I can't answer your question. But as far as when I look at my blood tests, I never see cholesterol out of range. In fact, it's really in a good range.
Okay. Has anybody else seen who's been on enzalutamide seen an effect from enzalutamide on their cholesterol panel? I don't know. I mean, you can do a little research on it.
I'll check Mike.
Check Mike, yeah.
I'll check Mike tomorrow. What test next month?
You're cutting in and out quite a bit.
I said I will check Mike Tamales. I will check Mike Tamales' blood work when he does it next month.
Okay.
He'll have been on enzalutamide for about 6 weeks then.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so we can just keep an eye on it. But I do think that you might want to adjust. Don't let it go, Jake, and you might want to adjust. And I'm really. It really pains me to say it, but you got to do something about exercise if you want to stick around, man. I know it's hard, whether it's the man plan, whether it's just getting out and going for a walk every day, you got to do it because that's going to have a huge effect.
I was also on enzalutamide for 18 months,
yes.
But I took a statin at the same time, and that dropped cholesterol and LDL and everything way down.
Right.
So maybe that's if you're not taking a statin, maybe that's an answer.
Yeah, I am taking a statin, but it's not Crestor.
But Crestor is going to be a slight improvement, but it's not going to be the answer. But
it had been under control for many years, Rick. So I don't know why all of a sudden it just kind of went out of whack.
Because the damn ADT is cumulative.
Right.
It's like a slow drip. And all of a sudden, if you've got a slow drip and too much water goes in on one end of the seesaw, it tips it. And there's a point in time when you suddenly start to see the effect. You don't notice it, and then boom, it happens. And I think that, again, I'm not a doc, but I think that the ADT is just cumulative, and you've been on it for a good while, and it might just be, that's it, Jake.
It kind of just hits me all of a sudden, then you're thinking.
Yep. But I mean,
I've been on it almost 5 years.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Sheesh.
But, try and get out for a 10, 15-minute walk every day, if nothing else.
Okay.
Or get an exercise bike if you don't want to go outside. Get an exercise bike and pedal on the exercise bike whilst you're watching on TV. But it's going to make a difference.
Okay.
I don't have to tell you that. You know it. You've heard it.
No, I know that, Rick. It's just that's harder for me than smoking.
It's up to you what you want to do about it. We can't help you on that one, but that's definitely an answer. All right. So first of all, I want to check in. Don, do you have anything you'd like to raise tonight? No. Okay. And Larry Fish, do you have anything that you'd like to raise tonight?
Hi, Rick. I have things, but I'm in sort of a crowded situation, so I'm going to hold off till another call to speak. I'm muting right now.
Okay, go ahead. Keep muting, and we'll check in. We don't have a lot of people, so we'll check in with you at the end if you're in a better situation. If not, no problem. Just keep listening. All right, and there's no one else that's joined us. I've checked in with everybody. Looks like it. Okay. So, and Bill, was there anything else other than the neuropathy you wanted to talk about? You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, my kids were practicing piano and drums, so you guys didn't want to hear that. No, that was it, except I was going to mention the triglycerides also,
Okay.
which came up anyway. So everything's good.
Okay.
Can I, are you taking anything for the triglycerides, Bill?
I am not taking anything. Nothing's been prescribed. It's the only number that's not good. My cholesterol is fine. The triglycerides are over a little bit. They're like 409 or something like that. Last time I had it done.
Yeah, that's fine.
You said fish oil tablets. Eat walnuts, almonds, and
Right.
watch. And dietary was basically what she prescribed in the first place. I'm due for another cholesterol check within the next month or so.
Right, and cut out junk food. Candy and that kind of stuff raises triglycerides.
That's true.
And that's one of my weaknesses is I have a sweet tooth all the time.
The Trader Joe's has a very good price on wild salmon omega-3, by the way. So if you're looking for an omega-3 supplement, that's a definite possibility. I was going to call on Len, but it just said Len left probably just for a minute. Len, are you with us right now?
Yes, I'm back. Can you hear me?
You're back. Okay. Len, you have the floor.
All right. A quick history. Diagnosed May 2014, Gleason 9, extracapsular extension, seminal vesicles, and lymph nodes. No bone involvement, possible invasion of the bladder. Went on ADT, and in, from July to September of 2016, had 48 sessions of IMRT. PSA went down to 0.1 when it was measured December of 2016. In January, I was put on Zytiga to see if we could drive it down to undetectable. And unfortunately, it kind of went the other way. So I think it was February, it was 0.13, and then March was 0.23. My doc wanted me to continue at least one more month, thinking that possibly it was Zytiga flare or possibly even some radiation bounce. So I guess, we have such a small group here tonight. Has anybody been on Zytiga or know someone who was on Zytiga where initially the PSA went up marginally? No.
I mean, I will tell you, Len, that after I came, I can't remember, are you on ADT right now or are you off? You're still on it, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm still, I actually was on Firmagon for the longest time, and then I just got tired of those gut shots, so I switched to Lupron in January. I got a 3-month depot of Lupron. So I'm on Lupron and Zytiga.
I mean, when I finished, when I came off my Lupron, my PSA rose for over a year, but that's a little different situation. So I guess we don't have anybody with that experience. I mean, what the question is, for those of you who might have done some radiation, when did you intervene? What did you let your PSA get to before you sought to intervene? Is there anybody where that question is appropriate?
Rick, this is Jim. You mean At what point did you start radiation?
No,
Is that the question?
no. The question is, after you had radiation
Oh,
and your PSA was climbing, when did your doctor intervene and add another treatment? At what level of PSA did your doctor intervene and add another treatment?
well, mine was about 3. It's been many years ago since I had salvage radiation. Maybe got up to 5, something like that, and then intervened with Lupron.
And Peter, does this apply to you? Did after your salvage radiation, what happened with your PSA?
I'm still down around 0.03, but I mean, diagnostically, I'm identical to time frame and seminal vesicle spread and all that stuff. Identical to Len. But I had a prostatectomy, so that's why I'm, 0.03.
Right.
I think probably at some point, I don't know what the low point is, whether you have to let it run a little higher, but at some point, one of the high-tech scans is probably going to be in order to see what exactly is going on. It means it's uncomfortable. I know it's fighting right to that point, but I don't know what else to do because.
I'm sorry. Can you just repeat
whether this is actually spreading and where it's.
But what the point is that at what level do you think you would start to be concerned? Would you be concerned at a 0.13 level? If it's gone from 0.13 to 0.23, would you let it ride and see if it goes over 1 or 2 or 3? That's really the question that Len is faced with, because his doctor is saying to him, let it ride, let's see what it does.
Yeah, I think I'm speculating because I don't have a prostate still, but I would think you'd have to want it to be 1.0 or 2.0 before you can really do anything. That's my guess. I don't know. I don't have that exact same situation because Len's already had 48 sessions of radiation. They're probably not going to give him any more radiation. And if something's flaring up in the prostate, I guess there's a possibility of doing surgery. I mean, there are doctors who will do that now. So, it's speculation.
I mean, I don't think the answer is to intervene with a surgical procedure. I think the answer is probably to intervene with an additional drug, and the question is, when do you introduce that additional drug? I think isn't that really what's on your mind, Len?
Yes, exactly. I did go to Daniel Petrolak for a second opinion, and he did want to have me scanned when the PSA was 0.1. You see, because my original med-onc, just 3 months after the radiation, when the PSA was 0.1, he said, well, let's go on intermittent, put you on drug holiday. So of course, that would be wonderful, but I just wanted to make sure there was some consensus on that, so I consulted 2 other docs, and both of them said, well, I wouldn't put you on drug holiday unless we first do the following things. And Petrolak wanted to do a scan to see if he could find anything. And I said, well, 0.1, we're not likely to see anything on a scan. And he said, well, you never know. And so I respectfully went seeking another opinion because that just didn't make sense to me. And then I went to Dr. O at Mount Sinai, and he said, well, let's first see if we could drive it down to undetectable and then go on drug holiday. So I guess the conversation is a little premature, Rick, because in another week I'll have another PSA test and we'll see if that same pattern of going up is there or if it's going to reverse.
So there are two things that occur to me, Len. One is we don't know whether you're ARV7 positive or not, do we?
Correct.
So we don't know whether the Zytiga is even working. It may not even be working.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm going to press him for ARV7 test next time I see him.
Yeah, I think you've got to ask him for an ARV7 test. They can do it easily now. It's covered. They you know, I've got the requisition form if you don't have it, and they take it and they send it down to Johns Hopkins, and at least you'll know whether you're ARV7 positive. If you are,
okay,
then you know the Zytiga isn't going to work, and most likely the enzalutamide isn't going to work either.
right.
And
Yeah, that would be useful information because then I could move on to clinical trials.
or do something
therapies,
exactly.
whatever.
So I number one, if it were me, I'd be wanting to know if I was ARV7 positive. The second thing is when was the last time that you had scans?
Just before radiation, so it would be about June of 2016.
So, you know, if you do it in June, then at 12 months apart, it's probably not unreasonable. You know, if you do it in May, it's not that unreasonable, and we're almost in May. Well, we're almost in April. I'm moving the calendar through pretty quickly here, but my point, I guess the point is that it can't hurt to do more scans. What sort of scans are they talking about?
Well, Petrolac just wanted to do routine, you know, it wasn't advanced technology scanning. That's the other reason why I didn't want to do it. I mean, if Dr. O decides scanning might help, and I believe he did say that Mount Sinai is using, I'm sorry, Axumin, I think it's called.
Yeah.
You know, the latest technology, which a lot of docs seem to think is the most sensitive at the moment. I would be up for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the F18, I think, the Axumin. Yeah, I mean, you know, I would say that they can't hurt.
Yeah.
And if Petrolac doesn't want to do it, but O does, you go back to Petrolac. You know, switch off between the two of them.
Yeah. O is pretty cooperative. I think he's open to whatever I want to do.
Okay. So those are the two things. I would say, you know, the ARV, check if you're ARV7 positive, and see if you can get scanned and watch the numbers. But I think most people's docs tend not to intervene until the PSA is a little higher.
Let me, this is Don, let me just add that, you know, I do the telephone consult with Mark Schultz and Marina Del Rey, and there is no consensus. So Schultz wanted me to do chemo with essentially on Firmagon and Zytiga and undetectable PSA. So I only point that out, even though the studies don't necessarily say to do that, you know, there is no consensus, and some would say, hey, if it's going to be high risk, then you ought to do everything you can.
Right. Do we want to get into that discussion, Mr. Senor Sierra?
No, not at all. No chemo for me. Sorry.
I second that.
Yeah.
I second that.
Okay.
Let's not get into that discussion right now.
Okay. Let's just say that Len is an ABC man,
That's right.
For those of you who don't know what ABC is, it stands for anything but chemo. And it usually takes us a while to wear those guys down, but we're generally successful. Len was an AVR man for many years, anything but radiation. We finally convinced him. So, you know, he's well in his corner there, but we're in with a shot to keep him around for a long time. But I don't think we need to go to that discussion just yet. But I'm glad that I'm really glad Don Price mentioned that, because it's not just, now he knows that medical professionals say it as well as advocates.
Who was the one who seconded my ABC position? Was that Peter?
Yes, that was me. Yes,
Okay.
I definitely second it, because I know what looms in the future. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. We'll let the wriggling fish off the hook at this point in time, and we'll move on. Unless anybody else wants to talk to anyone else on the call want to say anything to Len before we go on. Okay. So Jerry Grimes, let's talk to you some. You said that you had some additional thoughts and questions since last week. Just give everybody a quick update on where you are, and let's see if we can help you with your questions.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you. I had a diagnosis in 2013, Gleason 9, 5+4, stage 3 by MRI anyway, and had 44 sessions of radiation and 3 years of hormone therapy, Lupron plus Casodex. That ended a year ago in March, and since then my testosterone has recovered very sprightly. It's up to 544 now, which I'm real happy about. Less happy, the PSA has come up somewhat. It was 0.2 in August, 0.5 in December, and 0.7 in March, which if I plot them on a log slope, being an engineer, I love to make graphs and numbers and stuff. It's been drifting up on a relatively straight line on a log slope, which typically is indicative of cellular growth or that sort of thing. So what I've been trying to do is figure out what the PSA response of benign prostate tissue would be, because I still have my prostate. I've got 20 some odd grams probably of actual prostate left that's well irradiated, but I've been having a terrible time finding any information about what PSA such tissue puts out compared to Gleason 9. So the real question is the number rising that I'm seeing just a slow, steady recovery of function by normal prostate tissue, or is it indicative of something happening with cancer tissue? And I couldn't count the number of studies that I've found and looked at, but there is still no real answer. Everybody seems to dance around that question. But it did occur to me in the last week that there should be a rich area of this, and that would be anybody that's on intermittent ADT. Because during the off phase, you're in exactly the situation where I am right now. So if you're a person who had radiation and went on hormone therapy, and let's say had recurrence and went on hormone therapy again, but is on an intermittent schedule, during those off phases, the testosterone and PSA recovery patterns should be really indicative of what would be happening for one, in my situation, coming off of primary therapy. You know, in a sense, I'm possibly in a really extended hormone therapy holiday here. And the question would be, at what point would we restart this? There are no answers that I've found. No studies I've found are definitive. Everybody I ask kind of shrugs their shoulders. So it seems all we can do is wait, and My oncologist said we'll check the PSA again in May after 2 months rather than 3 and see what's going on. But I am doing some more research on that possible fertile ground of what the PSA and testosterone experience is during the off phases of intermittent ADT for those who had radiation as primary therapy.
So, can you guys see my screen? I'm trying to share my. I'm trying to share.
Do I need to click on something?
I'm trying to share my screen. Let me know if you see something.
I have it says waiting to view your screen.
No. I'm not very good at this. Stop. No one. Stop. No one sees the screen. So how do I start? On air showing screen.
Just saw it for a second. It just flashed for a second.
There you go. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yes.
There it is. Yes. Now I see it.
Okay. Now, are you seeing a graph?
Yeah, it's very small.
Yes, looks like
monitors, but
Okay. And does that help?
can't
a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
a little bit. Can't make out what it's the graph of, but we can see the graph line.
Okay.
Yes.
That's disappointing that you can't see because it's huge on my screen. I
can read it. Well, you must have 2 monitors set up.
I do, yes.
I can see it fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Now, Jerry, before I get to the graph, I do have a question for you. Your doc, David Smith.
Uh-huh.
I want to go back really because this segues from Len to you, in a sense, because you're not on ADT. But have you had any discussions with him where he would want to intervene? At what level he wants to see your PSA before he wants to intervene?
He didn't give me a specific number. What he did say was when we check it again, if it gets above 1 or so, that we would probably initiate some scans and see what's going on. I'm a little pessimistic that any such scans would show anything at that low a level.
Mm.
I'm willing to do it, but I just don't think we'll see much. But I did not press the point of, okay, so at what PSA would we restart hormone therapy?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not exactly the same situation as Len because Len's currently on hormone therapy. So what Len's looking at is he becoming castrate resistant?
Right.
But I was just curious. Let me go back to your question because it's a question that bothered me a lot. And I haven't looked at the literature in 5 years, but I can tell you that 5 years ago, there was nothing at all on how your PSA recovers when you come off of ADT. There was plenty on how your testosterone recovers, but there was almost nothing on how your PSA recovers.
I'm going to say that's still the situation. At least I haven't found much.
Right. And I tried to get a couple of people to write on it. Now, several years ago, I can't remember when. I'd have to look at something that I have here from them. I think it was about 4 years ago. I was fortunate enough to attend a conference in Washington that was kind of sponsored by Milken and his organization. And I sat at the table with a guy called Larry Frank for dinner one night. And Larry Frank is a radiation oncologist at MD Anderson. He's a young guy, he's pretty smart. And we talked about this, and he drew a graph on the back of a napkin for me, and he said, well, yeah, there's a good reason why your PSA is going to go up when you come off. I said, well, let's talk about it because no one's published. And this is what he explained to me. So I'm going to use my pointer. If I was really good, I could change the color of this pointer, but I don't know quite how. Anybody know how you change the color of pointers? No. Let me just see here. No, I'll have to practice. I'll have to practice. So next time I have a pointer, I'll be able to. Let's see. Wait a minute. No, I can't see how to do it. There is a way to do it, but too bad. PSA is on the y-axis, and time is on the x-axis. And I've plotted this out to roughly to 36 months. Now, the dark curve here is how one would expect the PSA to decline if you didn't have any hormone therapy, if you didn't have androgen deprivation therapy. So you still have a prostate, and after you finish your radiation, we know it starts to go down, and a lot of times with some, this can vary, but we know that there is a bump. We're not exactly sure why, but we know there's a bump having in some way, shape, or form to do with inflammation. Often occurs around 18 months. There's the 18-month mark. So you see it go down, go down, go down. You can see it bump, and then hopefully if it's successful, it's going to keep going down. It may not hit zero. I just throw it to zero. It might stop at some level because you still have a prostate. So maybe it would stop somewhere above and it would just go out on a straight line. What happens when you take hormone therapy is that it is forced down to zero artificially because we've taken all the testosterone out of your body, and we're assuming that the hormone therapy, that the androgen deprivation therapy works, which it may not do. Right. But if it works, you're going to have a testosterone, you're going to have a PSA level of less than 0.1. Okay?
Yeah, mine, it went right down.
Okay. So what's going to happen is that instead of you starting up here, wherever that point is on the graph, let's just say that point up there might be 5, for argument's sake, 6, doesn't matter. You're going to be right down here because you've already been doing hormone therapy, androgen deprivation therapy for 6 or 8 weeks before you started your you started. Then you've got another month whilst you're on your hormone therapy. So by the time you get off of it, or 6 weeks or longer, you're down here. So you move right along down here, and let's just say, I'll go to my case. I was doing hormone therapy for 28 months. So let's just assume for this case I was doing it for 24 months for the sake of the graph. When you get to the 24-month mark, your PSA, your testosterone starts to come back. And as your testosterone comes back, your PSA starts to register. And so what happens is you see your PSA climb and climb and climb until it intersects with the master curve as if you had never had any hormone therapy. And that's where it peaks, and then it starts to come down again. So the earlier you stop, the higher is going to be the maximum PSA you reach. So
that makes sense.
Don't be alarmed if your PSA climbs when you stop hormone therapy. The doctors never explain this to you. And I don't know why somebody doesn't publish it, because if one person published it, it would put thousands of men's minds at rest. And I even
especially since they seem to be shortening the ADT.
Well, that's right.
I went to full 36 months on that.
Okay, so yes, you're absolutely right. And I said at the time to Larry Frank, let's publish something together, but I never heard from him. And we need to find somebody, maybe my buddy Albert Chang. I've asked him if he'll do it, but I just haven't pursued it. But I've asked him if we could do it together because it would be a huge service to the prostate cancer community to publish something on this. This is a hypothesis as well.
Sure.
That's
a brilliant diagram. That's a good way of showing it.
I'm not suggesting we do a trial and to check or what have you, but just publish the hypothesis. People can shoot it down, and hopefully by shooting it down, we can improve it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted you to see this, Jerry, because I think that it probably gives you a framework under which you can consider your rise in your PSA.
Yeah, that's possible. It may depend on, where your curve goes to 0. It probably actually flattens out at 0.5 or some value.
Yes.
So there would be a up to that value and then a flattening of it.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I had expected to see.
Yeah, I mean, I just did this. We did this on the back of a napkin. I kept the napkin, and then one day I got tired of trying to explain it to people, and I couldn't show them the napkin, so I just drew it up as a graph and saved it.
No, that's.
But let me say that you, as a qualified engineer, are more than welcome to improve this graph and send it back to me, and so next time we have to explain it, it will be more accurate.
Well, I might play with some numbers on it. What I'd be exploring is the window actually a little bit beyond your 36 number there.
Right.
So me, 36 was a year ago, and my PSA stayed 0 while my testosterone went up a ways, and then it only began climbing back up after my testosterone was well back up mid-year. So I was probably at 40, 42 months when it started to go back.
Right. So again, if you wanted to improve on this graph, you might have a testosterone line in there.
Yeah, I'll play with it a little bit. I like the way that's set up.
Okay, so it gives you a framework. That's all I wanted to do was to give you a framework. So so anyway, that's I thought that might be helpful for you. Anybody else want to ask about this? Questions, thoughts, anything? Boy, you're a silent lot tonight.
Well, that's about the response I usually get when I ask anybody questions about it. It's pretty arcane, it seems.
I see. I'm trying to figure out how to unshare my screen now, and I can't see how to do it. Oh man.
It's all done. I don't get anymore.
What's that?
It's gone now.
Oh, okay. Good. All right, that's good. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Anything else on your mind that you want to talk about?
Well, actually, just one small thing. One of my business acquaintances came by this morning, and he clearly had something on his mind. It's a vendor that I work with. I've known him for quite a while. We've talked about my prostate cancer, and he's in his 50s, and we've talked about PSA screening, and I've encouraged it and that sort of thing. He came by this morning to let me know that he had just been diagnosed not too long ago. 9 out of 16 cores, Gleason 7, 4+3, and that he's going to have Da Vinci surgery Thursday. I said, wow, that's a major development. So we had a fair discussion, and I think I kind of helped put his mind at rest a little bit, and just encouragement to keep talking to people about PSA screening. I think some of his screening he did because I kept encouraging it, and I think it probably found something that really needed intervention. So it's kind of gratifying to help other people a little bit through this, and just to encourage people to do screening.
Well, two things I'd like to say on that. One is that Peter Kafka runs a very, very good group. He moderates a very good group for people with low and intermediate risk prostate cancer, and he has a lot to do with surgery. And even though this guy's going in on Thursday, so he hasn't really doesn't need to talk about the pre-op things. He may well want to sign on to Peter's group. We met yesterday. I usually attend a portion of it, not all of it, but they did meet today. The next group is going to be, what date's your next group, Peter?
Wait a second. Is
April
11th.
April 11th.
April.
Okay.
April 11th, I believe, is the next group.
Okay. So if you,
Along.
I'm going to put Peter's,
April 10th.
Monday, let's see, it'll be Monday, April 10th. So what I'm going to do is put Peter's, I'm going to put Peter's,
Could you hear me?
yes.
Yeah.
I'm putting Peter's email, peterk@ancan.org. And if you send your buddy's address, email address to Peter, we'll put him on the distribution. Like we have a distribution, they have a distribution too.
Okay.
And I'm sure Peter will be more than happy to assist him, and there'll be other men. The other thing is we have a really good surgery tips package. I can't remember if it's linked. Is it linked on the website? Do you know, Jake? If it isn't, I will send it to you. If it is linked, I don't have time. Unfortunately, I can't check whilst I'm moderating. But if it is, then Jake will put the link in the chat window. And if it isn't, I'll send you a file afterwards, and I recommend you pass that on to him so he can read it before he goes in. It's a very helpful surgery tips.
What was the link again, Rick? I was stuffing my face. I didn't hear everything you said. Sorry.
The link for our surgery tips?
Oh, on ANCAN?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look, and if I find it, I'll put it. Do you have an idea where it would be off the top of your head?
No, that's what I've got to look for. I think it's on there somewhere. Peter, do you know if the surgery links is on there? It is, isn't it?
I'll see if I can find it.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
I believe it is.
Yeah. I think it is on there.
It's one of the things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, sadly, you're very muffled now with your headphones on, Peter. Sorry to tell you, we can't win with you today. But anyway, we'll look, and we'll get it to you for your buddy, and he's more welcome to join us. Okay. So we'll move along here, and let's see. Let's talk to Peter, and we'll bring Jim Harrington into Peter's conversation. Peter, you wanted to talk a little bit about post-op urinal retention, and you also had some questions for Jim Harrington.
Right, correct. Am I less muffled now?
Much less muffled.
Can you hear me okay?
You're absolutely perfect. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Okay. Actually, got three things. One is a comment on Jerry's comment about guys getting their PSA checked. I mean, I too had a conversation this week with my ex-brother-in-law. First time I'd spoken to him in over 35 years. And he, like an idiot, never had his PSA checked. He's 70 years old, and sure enough, it was 21. And even though his Gleason score seems to be 7, it's still a 21 PS issues he's got to deal with. And he knows he was a fool never to get his PSA checked. So I don't know how to get the word out to guys. All we can do is kind of wear ball caps that ask people whether they've checked their PSA. I don't know. but we've got to somehow get that message to guys. So that's one bandstand. The other is I just had minor surgery on Friday. I had a lipoma on my neck that I've been carrying around for 20, 21 years, and I had it removed. And they put me out. They put me under general anesthesia. And they gave me a sheet that told me what the side effects might be, et cetera, et cetera. But no place on that sheet did they mention that of the possibility of urinary retention. So I go home and I try to go to sleep that night. And I realize I'm not urinating. I realize I'm holding back and I can't get anything out. And all of a sudden, you know, I went through this for eight months prior to my prostate surgery. I know well what urinary retention is and how uncomfortable it can make you feel. So I'm freaking out all night. I'm getting up that every half hour, every 45 minutes, and pushing on my bladder, on my gut, trying to force something out. And then I try to go back to sleep, and a half hour later, you know, a couple of teaspoons of urine is accumulated in my bladder, and I feel like I have to go again. And I spent the whole night doing this. And one point, about 1 in the morning, I got up and I started looking online, and sure enough, I found out that for guys over 50, it's pretty common to have urinary retention when you're when you've had a general anesthetic. It kind of puts things to sleep down there. I thought, well, why didn't someone tell me this? Because I've got a whole stash of catheters, and I thought, well, maybe should I start poking one up me? And I thought, no, what if I injure something from the surgery a couple of years before? And so I decided not to. I just suffered all night. And by the morning, it started to clear up, and now I'm urinating okay. So I called the hospital and said, you know, you should let some of us know this. I mean, this is, you know, give us a heads up on this kind of stuff, because it's, you know, this makes us very uncomfortable, particularly if we don't. So I think hospitals and doctors have a long way to go in terms of informing us about surgical implications. You know, whether it be anesthesia implications or post-surgical things that could go wrong. I mean, we have some of the stuff outlined, but not all of it by any means. I'll stop there for a couple of minutes, get off my bandstand.
I think it's a really good point that you make, that all too often doctors don't think beyond the end of their nose. You know, they're thinking about the procedure they're going to do, and then what they're going to have for lunch, and they don't think about all these side effects. We see it all. Sadly, we see it too often, and that's why we as patient advocates bring a lot to the table. I mean, you know, it allows me to get on my soapbox. Peter heard this yesterday, that patient advocates oftentimes are the most valuable people that you will talk to if they're knowledgeable, because they're going to tell you not only what the doctor won't tell you, but they're also going to tell you what to ask the doctor to get him to tell you what you want to know. And you know, here the question is, when you go in for a procedure, doc, please be very specific about what possible side effects might affect me. And you know, if you've got urinary issues, the doctors know that from his medical records that Peter is wrestling recurrent prostate cancer. You think they would say, well, you know, just watch out because you may have some issues around urinary retention. So now we've heard it. Now we'll mention it to other people if they're going in for any type of procedure to make sure that they get well educated. But the other side of this coin is, and you know, I'm sort of thinking about mentioning this more frequently. Maybe every call, maybe not, because people get fed up with it. You don't want to hear the fundraisers. You don't want to hear the fundraising on NPR and PBS. You probably turn it off. I know I do. but I usually only turn it off after I've made a contribution, and we need you to support us. Because as you heard at the very beginning, we are growing, and we've got to bring people in. And sometimes we've got to pay those people. I mean, none of us have taken anything out other than covering our expenses. We would like to. But we, right now, as far as these calls are concerned, where we're not providing personal one-on-one navigation, we just rely on your appreciation and your generosity. We want you to sign up for Amazon Smile because that doesn't cost you anything. And if you feel that we're doing a good job and we've shown you things that you didn't know before, you know, make a small contribution, go through PayPal, send us a check by downloading the form, but don't just take us for granted because we're doing more in changing the way that you're getting treated than probably most other people in your medical team, including the doctors and including your clinical trials and including everything else, because if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be seeking out those clinical trials or you wouldn't know as much about them. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll go back to Peter, who's ready for his third question.
Okay, also see Ron Shaheen has drawn this too, so I'm not going to take up too much time. He might have something.
Okay.
And also Tom Van Zant's on the phone on the line too. So.
We'll check with both of them. You have a question for Jim?
Anyway, Jim.
Yes, I'm here.
In California and staying with a good friend of mine for many, many years down in Southern California. And he was opening up to me concerns that we don't talk about on this call much, but it does come up on the low and intermediate call. And he was talking about erectile dysfunction. And when I was talking to Rick about it, he mentioned your name as someone who has a lot of experience in this field. And I just want to confirm, is that something that you and I can talk about?
Oh, yes. Sure. I'm happy to talk to you. Sure. Rick can always send you my email addresses over there. I'm always happy to talk about it. He's one of these sort of unwanted experts, but sure, I can talk about that. I've tried all kinds of things, and I can give you some help. But let me go back on your second question. There's one thing you didn't mention, but I did not have problem retaining urine. I had the other problem. I had the incontinence problem, but there is something just generally for everybody that you might check, and that's with your urologist, and that is, do you have any scar tissue or urethral strictures? And it's very easy to determine with cystoscopy. So they just stick a scope up your penis, and they can see I had it. And I don't know where it came from. One of my urologists said once scar tissue, always scar tissue. So, but it can be removed, and that was removed. I didn't notice an effect on the urine flow and so forth, but I just thought I'd mention it, that you're talking about all of a sudden this happened to you and so forth. But if things start happening again like this, you might go to your urologist and take a look at a cystoscopic evaluation. It's so doggone simple, and to shove the cystoscope up, it's a fibroscope type things I work on. But in any case, yes. As far as the erectile dysfunction goes, anyway, I have a urinary artificial sphincter, which works extremely well right now. So moving off incontinence for the moment, which is not your problem, on erectile dysfunction, sure. We can do it offline, Rick. I've tried everything. I mean, I can talk about pills, the inserts. I can talk about the injections, which work very well for a while. But then, and I can talk about the pump, which can really work. Now, the fact that you have to interrupt your sexual foreplay and go in and use a pump, sure. Who wants to do something? But look. I'm married. My wife is a beautiful 63-year-old and ballroom dancer, so she's got an hourglass figure. So I sure would like to have sex, but I'm a permanent hormone or Lupron lifer now, and so it's difficult. But I can't really. But I don't want to get onto the artificial urinary sphincter because that's not the issue now. But I can certainly talk about the different ways of doing it. I mean, beside the 3 pills that you can take if they don't work. I can tell you one thing, after the surgery and then the salvage radiation, I love it when doctors, make sure, well, we're going to give you prophylactically these pills so that you can, take them 3 times a week or something like that. And I've talked to many men, and us too, and many on this call, and it just doesn't work like they say it's going to work. So best of luck to you. But there are possible solutions, and I can help you with these injections. The Trimix is really very good. You've got to go to a mixing pharmacy to get it. Now, people don't like sticking needles in the penis, but I want to tell you, it's not bad, and it can really work. So these are some things, Rick, just to cover the surface of it, and I'm happy to talk with you offline. I'm at Rutgers University here in New Jersey. You can call me at work. I'm happy to talk about it. And I wish that some of these had really worked for me. Ultimately, I wound up with the pump because I tried everything. Once I had the surgery, I just could not get an erection, and they did not cut my nerves, quote unquote.
Okay.
You don't know.
Yeah. Well, this is not for me personally, but it's for a very good friend of mine who is, at this point, does not have prostate cancer. At least I hope he doesn't. But
You're just talking about erectile dysfunction.
Pretty severe problems with this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
with me when I was visiting him a couple of weeks ago.
What's his age?
So.
What's his age?
He's 72. 72.
Join the club. I mean, as we get older, he still work as well for many of us. So. Sure. Happy to help, Mark. You can.
Right. There is a key point that comes out of this. There is a point that all of us can benefit from, which is that the the LHRH drugs suppress, for most men, they suppress your libido. They don't stop you getting an erection. They don't affect, well, I mean, they do, but to a much, much lesser effect. They don't really impact the musculature, but they take the desire away from you. Some men, it has no impact. Probably 80% of men, it has significant impact. And, there's 20% who lose their libido to some extent. But the fact is that if you want to get an erection and you want to have sex whilst you're on hormone therapy, there are ways that you can do it, as Jim has just told us. And if Jim has libido and he wants to have a sexual relationship with his wife and wants to have intercourse, he can do it using these methods. And so I just want to encourage people not to write off their sex life just because they're on hormone therapy.
Absolutely right, Rick. There's really no reason. The fact that your libido is affected and your testosterone is Zippo doesn't mean you can't have sex and that you can't get turned on, and that through various means you can get an erection, still have it. Just because you say you're going to lose your libido, it doesn't mean if there's a lovely naked woman in front of you that no, they won't. You still can get excited. I completely agree with you, Rick.
Okay. So I thank you very much for bringing that up. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll write you offline. I'll write you an email offline. Jim.
Sure. Be sure to do that. And I'm at Rutgers University, and Rick can connect us up, and I can help your friend in Southern California. But there are many things, and I've tried almost every one of them. And some of them, I mean, the first injection I ever had, I thought, oh my gosh, look at that thing. Wow. Poof. And it can really work. So don't give up. There's hope.
Yeah. Peter, you've probably seen it. I just sent you on a private note. I sent you Jim's email, and there's his telephone number. And if anybody else wants to talk to Jim offline, just send me a note, and I would be happy to connect you to him with his email and his telephone number. I don't have to ask him because he's so generous with his time on these issues that I know what he's going to say.
Oh, I'm happy to help. I've spent a lot of time with some of these issues, and next week I will talk about a trial that might interest men. And
that's right.
Yeah, you just keep on keeping on. Yeah, right. I'm happy to do it.
That's right. So Ron Shaheen, are you with us, Mr. Shaheen?
I'm here. I came in a little late, but always interesting conversations.
All right. And is there anything you'd like to talk about tonight?
Well, just to add on to the last conversation, after my prostatectomy and during 4.5 years of hormonal therapy, I was blessed with the fact that my wife came to the same state of sexual desire that I did at the same time. It took a lot of pressure off me. But I did go the compounding pharmacy route for a while and found it mildly effective. While I did get an erection, it was not effective enough to really be any good. It was a little, there was an attitude adjustment taking a needle and sticking it in your penis. But after you've done that a couple of times, you can get past that. It really wasn't painful. It's just more of an attitudinal thing. And I just thought I'd add that. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I thought I might bring up is I've had my last chemo about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. And for the first time, I usually take a Zometa infusion at the same time. And this time I started having some bone pain in my left arm, a strange kind of pain. Sometimes I thought it might be a nerve pain running up and down, and I would rub it, and it was kind of hot. And then it would kind of, the bone pain would kind of find itself in different parts of my arm. Took a couple of extra strength Tylenol at night, which was effective to go to sleep. But I'm just curious if other fellows have experienced bone pain or nerve pains from Zometa.
From Zometa. Well, I can tell you I didn't, but I didn't get a lot of Zometa. I got annual infusions, which is a little different to most people. We spent a lot of time talking about nerve pain from androgen deprivation drugs like Firmagon and Lupron at the beginning of this conversation. Well, it'll get posted, so you'll be able to re-listen to that, and neuropathy, and also possibly from abiraterone and enzalutamide. But anybody else on the call? First of all, I don't know if we've got anyone else on the call today that's done chemo.
Rick, this is Jim. Is Zometa, if I'm not mistaken, is similar to Xgeva? Is that correct, or am I incorrect?
Right. No.
Yes, it's the bone strengthening.
Right. So it's like
drug.
Xgeva, or before that, or in a new one, Prolia. Yeah, I took Xgeva. And I took Xgeva. Let's assume it's similar enough to Zometa to be. And I did have problems with bone pain. And so I stopped it for the moment. But if you look, in fact, it really started to get to annoy me. And they thought maybe they wanted to switch to Zometa. But Xgeva, which is, it depends on how they do it, every month and a half shot type. So, but I did have it. And it is one of those things, other than your teeth falling out, when people have been on the call, had these problems. Just to put that aside for the moment, but it can affect your joints too. And for the moment, I stopped it, so I don't know. But I'm pretty convinced it's my own analysis that the Xgeva had some impact on, besides making my bones stronger in terms of bone pain.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the scientific name of that particular drug that they use. It's a family of drugs. And you're right about having. That's right. I forgot the name too. And you could ask you might do the following: if you're having trouble with Zometa, look into Xgeva, which a lot of men take. You could also look in Prolia. Prolia is an interesting one, and I don't know. They all say, "Oh, it's all the same thing, Jim." I just don't think that's true. But I don't know. But they're all a part of that. I also cannot remember the name, but I knew what you're talking about. Yeah. If you Prolia, I think is a 6-month shot. It's just that you don't have to do it as often. And so you see these things advertised on TV. So you might just check if Zometa's causing you a problem. Check Prolia, check Xgeva, but I make no guarantees. I'm not that kind of doctor.
So
Prolia
Thanks,
is the
Steve.
same thing as Xgeva. Xgeva is a monthly dose. Prolia is once every 6 months and a far lower dose. Prolia is denosumab.
Yeah, that may be.
It's 65 milligrams once every 6 months instead of 145 every month. So it's
Yeah, I
with
get-
what, Xgeva?
I get the monthly. Well, it's every 3 weeks shot or infusion when I have my chemo. So it follows my chemo, my cabazitaxel.
So were you using Xgeva and then you switched to Zometa, Ron?
No, I've always been on Zometa
Okay.
from the very beginning, and,
Right.
and as you know, it's been over a year that I've been on this, and I've never had any problems, except I stopped in December for a month and a half with chemo and everything, and then the middle of February, I started up again, and the first shot of Zometa, I didn't have any effect, but the second time I've had this effect. I did talk to my oncologist about it, and he said he's the one who said it's probably the Zometa that is causing this problem.
So a couple of things. First of all, the classification of drugs you're trying to think of are bisphosphonates. This is what...
Yes, bisphosphonate, yes.
Bisphosphonates. Now, Xgeva is not a bisphosphonate. It's some sort of an antibody. Its generic name is denosumab, and the AB at the end designates antibody. So it works slightly differently. The other thing is it doesn't go through the kidneys, so they tend to give it to people that if there's anybody that has any sort of kidney issue, then they get the Xgeva. It's very hard to get it at Kaiser. So what you've got to do is put the full court press on in order to help them give you Xgeva rather than Zometa, because it's a lot more expensive and they don't particularly like to do it. So you're going to have an uphill grind, but you might be able to get it. The other thing I wanted to say is these drugs have a huge half-life. They have something like, I don't know exactly, maybe Jerry Grimes knows, I don't know, but it's something like the Zometa for sure has like a 2.5 year half-life. So you can take a break on these drugs for a good while and then go back on them.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, Rick, because that's what I was thinking, and you gave me good information. I was thinking maybe once a quarter, every third time I would do the Zometa,
Well, it's certainly a possibility, and it's something that's worth discussing with your doc. Again, that's it. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ron, this is Ron. Can I say something, Rick?
Yes, please.
Ron, this is Jake. I've been on Zometa for almost 5 years now. And, the reason for it is to rebuild. If you have cancer that's metastasized to your bone, Zometa is intended to rebuild what's being eaten away by the cancer. But one of the side effects is, strangely enough, if you can have hairline fractures that could possibly be causing you your pain. You would think that it would strengthen your bones, but and it does, and it keeps them from breaking completely, but you can get hairline fractures. So it might be, if you're having pain in your arm, it might be worth getting an x-ray.
Thanks, Jake.
And there also has been research, and Rick has pointed this out before, that every 3 months or every 4 months is probably just as effective as once a month.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. You brought up a good point. Actually, in the last 2.5 years, I have broken my my hand on my left hand, and I've also broken my elbow. So maybe because I've had previous breaks there, maybe that's a reason.
Yeah, I mean, we know that the Zometa does make your bones a little more brittle. It makes them, it fills in the holes. It tends to make them a little more brittle. So that's why it's easier to get the cracks.
Yeah.
And as Jake said, there's been recent research that seems to indicate that you don't need it every 6 weeks. Every 3 months is plenty. And you can also take a break. And you need the research for the every 3 months, we have it. We can send it out to you.
Great.
If you're getting, okay. Let me just, because I want to be sure to touch base with Tom Van Zandt. Tom, anything that you want to talk about tonight?
No, I was just checking in to listening.
That's great. And let me just come back to, let me switch him on. I want to check and see if Larry Fish is, Larry Fish. Anything you'd like to talk about, Larry, or if you're in a place where you can talk?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah. There are a few things, but I think I'm going to wait until I have a little more time and it's a little more convenient to talk. Maybe on Monday night, I'll see what's going on.
Okay.
I had like a number of updates about what I've been going through, and the doctors, maybe a lot to discuss, maybe not, but I'll hold off. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So that's, we've covered everybody. So now we have, look at this, we've got 10 minutes of open time. How are we going to fill some open time? Any idea?
Rick, I have a suggestion.
Yes. Oh, wait a
Rick,
minute. Ken Anderson. Hold on a minute. Ken Anderson just arrived. Hello, Ken Anderson.
Hello there.
You came just in time because we actually have 10 empty minutes. Somebody has a suggestion how to fill it, but you just logged on, so we want to check in with you and see if there's anything you want to talk about. Where are you? What's happening with your chemo? Where are you going to get it? Fill us in. Tell us what's going on in the world of Phoenix.
Well, I decided to go ahead and get chemo here locally. You know, it's with an oncologist that was referred by, anyway, it doesn't really matter who he's referred by. But yeah, I'm going to do it here locally, and it's supposed to start on Friday. So I'm kind of anxiously waiting, I guess.
Okay. When you say it doesn't matter who it was referred by, is this coming from Paul Korn in MD Anderson or somewhere else?
No, it's coming somewhere else, only because Paul really didn't have any good contacts here locally.
Okay.
So it was referred by a guy from, I believe he's from New York. It was someone that's from Daniel Petrolak.
Yeah. We know him. Len has seen him. Len's on the call, and Len has seen Petrolak. He's at Yale.
So he referred me to a guy here locally. He's with Premier Oncologists.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
How did you get to Petrolak? That's interesting.
There was a guy from Colorado that had posted something in 2014 that looked interesting to me, so I started chatting with him, and he referred me to two guys, Daniel Petrolak and a guy from the University of Colorado, I believe. I don't have his name in front of me, but and they both referred me to different people, though one was a guy that was at Mayo, of course, who's outside of my network, so I couldn't see him.
Right.
And then Daniel referred me to this guy who's someone that works for the Virginia Piper Center. He's like on the board of directors for the Virginia Piper Cancer Center or something. Someone that he'd met along his way.
Oh, were you talking directly to Petrolak?
I was not.
Okay.
No, I was talking to a guy named John. I don't remember what his last name was.
Fortin, F-O-R-T-I-N?
Is he from Colorado?
No, but that doesn't matter. But anyway, look, as long as And is this doc willing to work with Paul Korn?
Yeah, it seems like they're okay with it, meaning taking directions as far as Paul had already given out the, and again, I don't know what exactly, if it's Taxotere or what it is, but yeah. I do have a question though for everyone. In the last couple of days, you know, I have bone metastasis, so in the last couple of days on my skull, there's kind of a sore spot, and it's kind of moved into my left eye. Any ideas what I should do about that? I talked to Paul Korn about it, and he said take some Tylenol. So that's the one thing I don't like about having him in Houston. I can't like go see him.
Well, I would say that if you're talking about starting chemo on Friday, just talk to the oncologist when you go in there and see what he wants to do. You know, I would say that probably taking the Tylenol is not a bad move. They're going to dose you up with a whole bunch of other stuff a couple of days before anyway. Is he giving you drugs to take ahead of time?
At the moment, I don't have, no, I can honestly say no.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
So you
I thought with Taxotere you take prednisone.
Well, what they do usually is they give you dexamethasone and prednisone. And you, you take the dexamethasone, I think, a day before or 2 days before or maybe a day after, and then you go on to the prednisone.
Yes, that's what I did.
Right.
Well, then I better check on that tomorrow.
Hey, Ken, when you say that the metastasis moved to your eye, how do you know that?
No, I don't know that it moved to my eye. I just know that my eye is a little swollen, and it's red, and I don't know what's causing it other than possibly what's going on in my bones. I have no idea. I'm never sick, though, so either it's something that I'm taking, one of these, you know, I'm taking a few supplements, or I can't imagine that it's Lupron that's causing, and it feels like it's got an infection, meaning that it's kind of sore and hot around my eye, my left eye. You know, it feels like it has an infection, but I don't know. I can still see out of it. So it's definitely red.
Well, I mean, it could be that you have, it's unrelated, and it's just a little bit of an eye infection that you have there, or, you know, some sort of an allergy, or a piece of that wonderful Arizona grit that's floats.
Yeah, I don't think it's that, but I mean, I do think it's something like an infection if I had to guess. I don't know that it's related to what's going on in my head, on my skull. But I was just, I mean, I would imagine the oncologist, he's going to be able to look at it and tell me what his comments are. But I will take, you know, Paul Korn's advice. And it's not super painful, and it doesn't keep me up at night. You know, I can still sleep. So, I mean, it's not that bad. But it's definitely worse today than it was yesterday.
So I think more important, you know, we've still got about 5 minutes left. So I think it was Len, I'm not sure who it was that had something that they thought would benefit us with in the last 10 minutes, but let's stick with Ken Anderson, and you can please feel free to send me a note so that we can look at it another time. Now Ron Shaheen just left, never mind. I'd like to just talk a little bit about what to expect with chemo. And Ron was the only guy I think who's done chemo that's on the call. Did I, right? You know, Don Price has gone too. So,
Dennis is here. And
Dennis is here. Thank you, Dennis. Okay. So let me give you my 2 cents, and then I'll let Dennis speak. But generally, I think what people find is that the first couple of sessions they do quite well with. They don't notice the first session. They feel more fatigued from the second session. But by the time the third and the fourth session come around, it's wiping them out. And
for the whole 3 weeks or just a couple days?
Usually the pattern is that it wipes you out for about 4 to 5 days. Excuse me. usually the pattern is that you don't feel too bad for the first 4 or 5 days after you get the chemo. You then feel rubbish for 10 days, and then the last week you feel much better again.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I kept very good daily records of, how I was feeling after the first one, so I kind of know what to expect when I get the next treatment. And you hit a low point with your white blood cell count, I think about 5-7 days, something like that, after you get your infusion. And that's where it really hits you and tired and so forth, and maybe a little nausea. And I concur that it does get, with subsequent infusions, it gets a little deeper.
Mm-hmm.
But my suggestion would be, hopefully your oncologist can recommend a supportive care type physician also. That was very helpful to me.
Right.
They can help you with your diet, so you eat the right things that don't give you nausea. Your appetite's going to change. Mine did, and everything tasted like metal, had like a metallic taste to it. A few things that I got for some reason or other that worked for me was like butterscotch pudding and ice cream sherbet. Was good, and it tasted like it should have tasted, and didn't have all these other tastes. And using a plastic spoon instead of a metal spoon, I think that was mostly psychological, but it worked.
Well, I'm not looking forward to it, I must tell you. But
you'll get through it. I was very apprehensive about it too, and the session itself is like nothing really. You go in there and then they put the needle in your arm, and you don't feel hardly anything.
Right.
And you're gonna walk out of there, drive home, do whatever you have to do, and not really feel bad. Hopefully they have a good facility there where you're going to get it, which is the next thing I was going to suggest. I don't know if this is like a cancer care center with supportive docs, or is it just the physician's office?
I believe it's an office. I don't think it's a whole center.
So
I don't think they're gonna have the supportive care per se. So,
well,
but I'm gonna ask.
What you want to ask is that you want a symptoms management doc, or a palliative care or symptoms management. It's the same specialty.
You don't get that from the oncologist himself. You don't call him when you have an issue. You call the other person, the palliative care person.
Most people call their oncologist, but as Dennis says, you're much better calling your supportive care doc, your palliative care doc, or your symptoms management doc, because they're a lot more tuned in to helping you than the oncologist. And that's more of their training. So if you can get a symptoms management guy on your team, it would be great.
I'll try. I'll try to find one.
People always talk about palliative care as being end of life, but it isn't end of life. It's all about trying to help you with issues surrounding treatment.
Gotcha.
Treatment doesn't have to be end of life treatment.
Right? And you will recover. I mean, I lost all the hair that I had, which wasn't very much on top of my head, but I did lose all my body hair essentially. And that's almost all grown back now, maybe a little curlier or grayer or something, but that stuff comes back, and you're better, you're feeling about stuff, and your energy level and everything else, you'll recover that. And although I do feel a little, older than I did before I got it, I'm still able to do most of the things I was doing before, and I'm 71, so.
And please maintain your exercise. Very, very, very important. Even if you feel crummy, try and get out at least for a 15-minute walk every day, and more if you can do it. There are some docs who actually administer the chemo whilst their patients are walking on a treadmill.
Gotcha. Do you guys, and I think, I don't know if I asked this before, do you guys recommend putting in this, I don't know, it's in your shoulder, it's something that they tap into to what's that?
The port?
Yes.
The port.
I did not get a port, and there were a couple of times towards the end of my treatment schedule where they were having a little more difficulty in finding the veins. But it wasn't impossible. Sometimes they'd have to call another person over to do it. But I thought that, to me, that was better than having the port, but that's a personal decision, I think.
Yes. Some people don't like the port because you have more of a risk of infection from the port. There are pros and cons on the port. I don't know, has anybody else had a port on the call? But there are pros and cons. Some people, most people that I've worked with here have not gotten a port.
The other thing I did get the steroids
Can you guys
the
hear
day
me?
before.
It's Larry Fish.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, this is Dennis again. I did get steroids. I took the steroids the day before, the day of, and the day after.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
All right.
And also they'll give you a prescription, which you should probably get filled in advance too. For there was a nausea pill. Didn't they give me some anti-nausea? I think I had an anti-nausea medicine that I took.
Yep.
And that was prescription.
Yeah.
So anything like that you're going to need, go ahead and get those prescriptions, get them filled in advance.
Yeah, they should.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, they should be. I would hope if your oncologist is on top of it, that they're going to be sending you these prescriptions to fill tomorrow if you're going in on Friday.
Well, I'm going to call them tomorrow for sure. So just to make sure that I'm not kind of left out on the weekend with no one to contact.
Right. We've got we're going to close up right now. I just wanted to welcome. There's a couple of people that are on the telephone, and I don't know who they are. If they'd like to identify themselves.
I'm Sylvester Mayer.
Oh, hi, Sylvester. How are you? And
I'm doing fine.
Good. And somebody else? I can hear two people, a man and a lady. Who do we have there?
Well, you have Larry Fish on the phone.
Oh, maybe that was where it was coming from. Yes, because I had you. You switched your number. That's no problem. Okay. Well, look. We need to close up right now. Ken, you can always call me. We can put you in touch with other people. Normally, when you call in, there's going to be 2 or 3 people that have done chemo. So we can keep giving you little tips and things that you can do. Some people think that if you wear these ice caps, you retain your hair. If you put your nails in ice water, that your nails won't go black. I mean, there is medical reason why that works. It really depends how much you want to keep your hair and how you feel about your nails. But at the end of the day, it all comes back anyway.
The comment that I heard in regards to doing the ice on your feet and your hands, and he said do a frozen washcloth, is that it helps with the neuropathy.
Yeah.
It
does.
More so than losing your toenails or losing the hair. I mean, it helps in your fingers and toes for neuropathy that can be set in and be for your life. So I think I might do those.
What I recommend is that you go on our website to the recordings and decks, and there is a recording where Bill Burhans explains why chemotherapy causes you to lose your hair and causes your nails to turn black. And it's a very helpful, informative 10 or 15 minutes that he talks about. Again, I don't have it up in front of me, but you'll find it, and I think I indicate which recording it is on, and you can click and at what point, so you don't have to listen to the whole thing. But it was something that Bill Burhans did for us probably in the last 4 or 5 months, and I left it up there because I thought it would be very helpful for people starting chemotherapy.
Well, I'll take a look at it.
Okay, and I'll drop you a line.
Ken, this is Peter. Ken,
go ahead.
Ken, this is Peter, and I know this. I mean, this is a very fast ride for you from diagnosis to heavy-duty treatment here, and we're thinking about you. Okay, you got a lot of support in these corners here. So let us know how you're doing in any way we can help you. Okay, because it's yeah.
Will do.
Okay, Ken, we'll talk, or I'll be in touch with you. Also, I have some news for you, so which I'll give you offline. All right, we've gone over time. See, we thought we had extra time, and now we've gone 10 minutes over. But it's really been worthwhile as usual. Hopefully, a lot of people have gotten a lot out of it, and the next meeting is going to be we'll do an advert for the next meeting. We had a little taster early on in this call, but one of the things we're going to do in the next meeting is Jim Harrington's going to talk a little bit about his experience with the listeria and Keytruda pembrolizumab trial that he's going in for his second session on. So if you want to find more about listeria pembrolizumab, I encourage you all to tune in next Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern, and you can work it back from there. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Hi, Rick.
Good night.